You want to talk about tuning? Let's talk about tuning. Hello, and welcome to my cluttered office. Normally, this is what is literally behind the camera as I'm shooting against my lovely backdrop over there. But today we're doing a video that it's going to be a lot easier for me to show you things if I'm seated like this with the instrument and the resources I need near me. So today we're talking about tuning your string instrument, right? I always have students who are like, I want to tune it, I want to tune it. And I'm like, no, you do not do it. No, only by a supervised adult. Until you get permission, you do not touch those pegs. String instruments tuning changes all the time, right? Some people are surprised that it's not, that you don't just open the case and it's always in tune. But there's a whole bunch of factors that can affect it. How tight or how loose your pegs are can be a big factor. I am blessed with instruments that stay in tune very, very well. But some instruments just don't, for whatever reason. How the strings are wound can affect that. Check out a video on how to change your strings I've got coming out soon. The weather can affect it. How humid or how dry, or even like if you have a really rainy week, that can affect things. Like the place I used to live in Colorado, I frequently had to tune my violin to the G because that peg would not move in the monsoon season in August. It was always awful. I always have students that are anxious to be able to tune their own instruments, and I always tell them, no, not yet, not yet. So if you're one of my students and I have sent you this video, the time has come. There are two tuning tools on every string instrument, right? There's the pegs, which are for big jobs where it's very out of tune. And then there's the fine tuners, which is, literally for the fine tuning. Not every instrument will have fine tuners. We're talking violin, viola, cello here. Basses have mechanized tuners up top that are different than the pegs. They're easier to turn, and they don't slip the same way that these pegs do. There are also some of those pegs that it's a relatively new thing in the last 10, 15 years or so that are more mechanized. I don't like them, but that could be me being like, okay, boomer. I prefer a traditional peg. And not all instruments will have fine tuners. This viola right here, because that's what I'm looking at right now, is my viola. Only had an A string when I got it, and it actually had a different fine tuner on it than the one that you see right here. I put this on because that came with a hooked fine tuner, and I wanted one that was easier to work with ball ends, because that's an anatomy of string things. Sometimes you have loop ends, sometimes you have ball ends. Most strings are ball end. And I put you see there's a fine tuner on my C string over here because that string was always just a little out of tune, and I got tired of using the pegs for just being a little flat or a little sharp. So, fine tuner, fixed all my problems. The other thing you have to think of too is the size of the instrument. If you are working with a student, or you are a student that has like a half-size violin, you turn the fine tuner like this and you've gone up a half or a whole step. Whereas you do that on a full-size instrument and it barely does anything. So the size of the instrument matters, which makes sense because, the strings are just smaller. The main reason that I tell my students, no, you can't tune yet, is I don't want them turning the pegs, because oftentimes the way that you break a string is you grab the peg and you go, ugh, and that's very easy to do. So rule number one, never turn the peg without plucking. If you're going up, you can turn it down without plucking, because that's not going to break it. Might cause some other problems, but so when you're using the pegs, always pluck. And so there are two different, obviously, just like anything else with a string instrument, you can pluck it, you can do the pizzicato stuff, or you can do arco with the bow, right? With the bow tends to give you a better tune, because you can just get a more accurate pitch that way normally because of the resonance of the instrument. But sometimes it's hard to do what you need to do up here with the bow going. I just changed the strings on my viola, so it is very out of tune. So we're gonna have some fun. So there's a few things that you can do with the pegs if they don't stick very well, and you can wind the string up against the peg box. If you watch the string changing video that I'm gonna put out, you'll see me do that. And so all I do is I wind it to where most of the string is wound up against the edge of the peg box, and that just helps the string grip it. You can get peg dope, peg compound, peg drops, all things that will help the peg's grip. And you know, in extreme circumstances, you may have to take it to a luthier or somebody who works on string instruments and get the pegs replaced, because maybe they're just bad pegs. It's been known to happen. And that can also change depending on the climate that you're in. Like I said, when I lived back in Colorado, when it got very humid in the rainy month of August, the peg would swell. So if you are coming from a dry climate to somewhere with a lot of humidity, your pegs might swell and you may need to, trim them off. But that's always best done by a professional. And there are times where your pegs may be so stuck that you can't move them. And this is a trick I learned in public schools. And some people are going to twitch and hate what I'm about to say. Get a very thick, very soft cloth and a pair of pliers. Now the cloth is very important. Don't you dare put the pliers directly on this delicate wooden peg. I mean, unless you want to scratch the bejesus out of it. I mean, I guess you could. But you get a very thick cloth, wrap it around the peg, and then use the pliers, preferably one where you can adjust how grippy, whatever this is called, to a size that's like almost the peg, so that you're not just clamping down, and just very carefully loosen the peg. Make sure you're turning the right way. Let's talk about tools that you can use to tune your instrument. You can get various tuners of all shapes and sizes. What have I got here? You've got a tuning fork, A440. Let's see. Does the mic pick that up? I don't know. Let's see. Ooh, probably did that time since I actually bumped it. But also if you hit it. Sure, it's picking that up. Sometimes you'll see these like mounted on a box so that the box actually resonates. Tuning fork is a good reference, but they do lose their tune over time. You can get, various tuners. This one is a metronome, but it does have this lovely feature that I love. And you can change it. Good for scales too. Good to practice scales with a drone. Then you can get the actual tuners that have the little light situation where it's like, okay, here's the tune and it's got green lights and no, you're red, and then this is the little needle. If you're gonna use those, I always tell students, don't use your eyes. It is a tool and a reference, not a crutch. So what I will tell them to do is look away from it, play the note, say, okay, I think I'm flat. Then look at it and say, oh, okay, I was flat, I was right. So now I'm gonna raise it a little bit, look away. I'm gonna raise it a little bit and then look back, did I get it? Don't just do the thing where you are staring at the tuner as you tune. And a piano is always a good reference pitch. If you've played string instruments for years and years and years and done enough ear training, you might be able to yeah. I may be a little flat or a little sharp, but I'm usually around there. That's flat. That's got to be flat. Oh, very flat. I was like a step and a half flat. Okay, well, okay, I'm not always right. I usually get the A though. And that just comes from muscle memory. That is years of me singing the A after it's played for the orchestra to tune. That's all it is. I'm not doing it. I don't have perfect pitch or anything. I just know how it feels to go and pop out at A440. It was on an E. I was right. But you don't always want to rely on that. I usually have a piano nearby when I'm teaching, and I check it, and I can usually tell, okay, we're sort of in tune. But like I said, this viola, she's very out of tune. So here's what we're going to do. You want to turn the peg down first to sort of break the hold it has. You don't want to just go straight up, because you might accidentally go with it, right? So you break it. Okay, that's not going to be in tune once I finish, because once you mess with one peg, you mess with them all. So I'm going to have to do that again with this guy. Not to mention, I just changed the strings so they're stretching, and it's going to be out of tune for days. When you're turning the peg, you want to be turning, but you also want to be pushing in slightly, because you want the peg to stick. What happens a lot with especially my students' instruments is if you just turn it up, it will go right back down to where it was. So you have to turn and push a little bit, which is why I always tell people hold up here and pluck up here, so that you're not holding here, so that all the pressure isn't going. You've got some counter pressure so that you're not putting strain on the neck. So you want to be constantly plucking. And if you have, like this one, I have to tune every single string, right? And they're very out of tune. So I won't go, I won't usually do A, D, G, C, because again, I'm on a viola. I'll go A, C, D, G, because if you go just one way all the time, it will pull your bridge up unevenly. Which is another thing. You want to check to make sure that your bridge, this one is, she's leaning forward just a tad, and that is not what you want. You want it leaning back just slightly, but I'll fix that another day. Like I said, this is going to be out of tune for, the strings are going to stretch, and it's going to be out of tune tomorrow, so I'll just fix it then. Because you don't want to, as you use the pegs, it will pull the bridge. It'll start back here, and it'll just over time, the strings will just pull it up, because that's just how the physics of the instrument works. And if you let it go too far, and it does sound like a gunshot when a bridge falls over. It is terrifying. Got my reference pitch. Now I'm lucky with this instrument. I don't have to do too much pushing inward. And part of that is because I've wrapped the strings the way I have. Now, if you're turning a long way, violin E strings, to this day, I have played that thing for almost 30 years, and it still scares me when I have to go a long way, because every time I'm like, trust yourself. I find it helpful with the singing things. If I'm not sure which way I'm going and I'm nervous about it, I will, like this G, let's see, I'll find my reference pitch. Sing your reference pitch, and then find the string itself. And obviously I had to go down there, so now I know that I have to continue going back up. So we're close. Now let's talk about what you do when you're bowing. If you're bowing to tune your instrument, if you're close and all that jazz, double stops, perfect fifths, that's the thing you want to do. So you bring this up here and you find, you loosen your bow if it's too tight. I think the A is good still. Let's double check it. No, she's really flat. Okay, yeah, that'll work. So my A's still a little flat, but I'm just going to tune everything to it for this. So the A becomes your reference pitch. And if you don't know this already, this is how orchestras tune. You'll get usually an oboe that will go with the A440, and then the strings will all tune the A to that, and then they'll go like this. New strings, they need some rosin on them. And what you're doing when you do that is you're tuning the strings to a perfect fifth, right? So the goal is to get, you hear there's a very, very slow sort of, my teacher always called it a beating in there. So that dissonance, that crunch that's in there, that means I'm not in tune. And as you get closer to being in tune, that slows down. So there, instead of like a yeah, 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 it's yeah, 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 that means you're closer. So here it's sped up, so that means I went the wrong way. So if you don't have a fine tuner, there's a couple of little tricks if you're doing the peg. If you go over, just kind of grab here and yank the string a little bit. And that'll lower it. I'm still a little too high. But, and if you are, if you need to, get it in frame. If you need to raise it a little bit, you can press on the string in the peg box itself just after the nut, and that usually raises it a little bit. Now the grip you're going to use when you're tuning by fifths, that's not in focus, is it? Okay, so we're going to, so you want to come up here like this, and it's usually, you want to have just like when we were plucking, you want to have some counterbalance so that you can push in as you're turning. So if you're doing like these two pegs on this side, I usually put the pointer finger on the other side so that I can turn it like that. And if it's over here, it's going to be those two fingers that do the pushing. So you ooh. There it is. There's the perfect fifth. Just so nice and open. It's so nice. So the most important point, whether you're plucking or bowing, is to make sure that you are constantly turning the peg. And like, you don't have to be super paranoid about it. I once was doing a summer clinic and had the other teacher handed me an instrument and was like, here, can you tune this violin for me? And I was having issues getting it into, it was fighting me so hard I could not get the thing in tune. And then I hear him go, oh no, it's a viola. And I almost had it in tune as a violin. And just as I was going to loosen the strings to take it back down to viola tuning, one of them popped. So they can take a bit of strain, but you don't want to push it. That's a lot. That got in tune a lot easier than I thought it would, considering the strings are new and are stretchy. But that could be because I have a method for changing my strings and tuning them afterward that you'll have to watch the changing strings video to figure out what that is. So that's it for the tuning of the string instruments. Feel free to leave a question in the comments if you have one. You can follow me on the Twitter tweeting at thatkjbell. That's my handle on all of the things. That KJ Teaches on TikTok is my teaching account. And, like the channel, subscribe, keep your eyes peeled for that string changing video. That is coming very soon. Yeah, happy playing. I still cannot figure out an outro that I like. I really don't like happy playing, but we'll figure it out. I thought my pitchfork was going again, but it's the horn player in the building playing something. That's funny.